Warm greetings from TNV Academy. Today we are here with you to an exciting topic that is SA8000. However, as usually, let me first tell you about the key takeaways from today's session. At the end of this session, you will be able to understand what is SA8000, elements of the SA8000 standard, what is SA8000, why is it important, requirements of SA8000, and the last one is benefits of SA8000. So let's start our discussion and talk about the first point, which is what is SA8000. The SA8000 standard is the leading social certification standard for factories and organizations across the globe. It was established by Social Accountability International in 1997 as a multi-stakeholder initiative. Over the years, the standard has evolved into an overall framework that helps certified organizations demonstrate their dedication to the fair treatment of workers across industries and in any country. SA8000 measures social performance in 8 areas important to social accountability in workplaces, anchored by a management system element that derives continuous improvement in all areas of the standard. It is appreciated by brands and industry leaders for its rigorous approach to ensuring the highest quality of social compliance in their supply chains without sacrificing business interests. The standard reflects labor provisions contained within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and International Labour Organization (ILO) conventions. It also respects, complements and supports national labour laws around the world and currently helps secure ethical working conditions for over 2 million workers. Regular revisions ensure the standard's continuing applicability in the face of new and emergent social and human rights issues. Organizational buyers, independent codes of conduct, and private sector initiatives have all recognized SA8000's multi-sector applicability and responded to growing public interest by integrating SA8000 criteria into their compliance processes. Similarly, governments wishing to encourage and strengthen social performance in the workplace have created incentive programs specifically organizing companies with an accredited SA8000 certification. In addition to publishing SA8000 and its supporting documents, SAI offers a wide selection of resources to help organizations maintain and continually improve their social performance, including capacity building, stakeholders engagement, collaboration between buyers and suppliers, and tools to ensure continued improvement. SAI views independent accredited certification to the SA8000 standard as a critical element contributing to the company's broader objectives of improving global labor conditions. Let us now know about our next topic, that is element of the SA8000. Child labor, forced or compulsory labor, health and safety, freedom of association and right to collective bargaining, discrimination, disciplinary practices, working hours, remuneration, and the last one is management system. We will discuss these elements one by one now in detail. First one is child labor. Most any social compliance audit checklist, including one for SA8000, should include checks for violations involving child labor. Child labor is still a common problem in Asia. A 2019 report from Varisk Maplecroft ranked both India and China as high-risk regions for child labor. Under SA8000, child labor is considered any work performed by a child younger than 15 years old unless the minimum age for work is higher by local law. The standard also sets requirements for the employment of young workers who are younger than 18 but older than 15 years old as specified above. Many countries including China allow for employing young workers. The second one is forced labor. SA8000 forbids suppliers from employing forced or slave labor as well as withholding personal documents, salary or benefits from workers. Withholding workers' documents could make it difficult for workers to leave at will. SA8000 requires that staff have the right to leave the workplace at the end of each workday and the 8 to terminate their employment with reasonable notice. Forced labor is an important aspect of social compliance that has been banned through some specific legislation outside of voluntary standards. The US banned all imports made with forced labor in 2016 and granted customs authorities the right to seize suspect shipments at the border. The third one is health and safety. A supplier is required to provide a safe and healthy workplace environment for workers under the SA8000 standard. This section has many areas in common with the US Occupational Safety Health Act of 1970. Health and safety violations can have serious consequences beyond SA8000. Non-compliance related social compliance for government, factories, how to avoid disasters. Safety violations can lead to a factory explosion or building collapse in extreme cases, delaying production indefinitely and potentially forcing you to find an alternate supplier for your goods. A social compliance audit checklist will typically dedicate a large portion of the audit plan to checking health and safety requirements. Under the SA8000 standard, your supplier must minimize or eliminate the causes of all safety hazards in the workplace environment wherever reasonable, assess health risk for new, expectant and nursing mothers, provide effective health and safety training to staff, provide staff an appropriate protective equipment, for example, hard hats, gloves, respirators at its own expense, and provide staff with free access to clean toilet facilities, potable water and sanitary facilities for food storage. A third-party social compliance audit checklist will typically include some specific checks related to production processes at that facility. The auditor might check hazardous material storage procedures, machine safeguards, machine stopping controls and ventilation system in production areas, for instance. The fourth one is freedom of association and collective bargaining. SA8000 freedom of association and collective bargaining requirement allows workers the right to organize trade unions of their choosing and to bargaining collectively with their employer. It also protects workers belonging to unions from discrimination, harassment, or intimidation. Compliance with this requirement can vary based on local or national laws. The Chinese government, for example, restricts union membership to only those trade unions that fall under the All China Federation of Trade Unions. SA8000 has a provision to address these local constraints on trade unions, requiring suppliers to allow workers to freely elect their own representatives in these cases. A social audit checklist can also include checks for less formalized collective bargaining system aside from trade unions. Even something as simple as a suggestion box can provide employees with the opportunity to lodge complaints and provide feedback to management. The fifth one is discrimination. The SA8000 standard protects workers from discrimination based on race, origin, caste, gender, religion, political affiliation, and many other attributes. The supplier should have a written anti-discrimination policy that is followed in the recruitment, employment and termination of employees. Under SA8000, suppliers cannot interfere with a worker's right to exercise certain practices related to their identity, such as the right to prayer, allow abusive, threatening, exploitative or sexually coercive behavior in the workplace, require work staff to take pregnancy or virginity tests. The sixth one is disciplinary practices. The SA8000 standard requires that suppliers treat staff with dignity and respect. This is a short requirement that forbids inhuman treatment, corporal punishment, mental or physical coercion or verbal abuse of employees. An auditor might interview a few workers to assess SA8000 compliance with requirements relating to discrimination and discipline. These can provide on-the-ground insight into conditions at the factory to complement documentation and management assessments. The results of violations related to discrimination or disciplinary practices is often that workers are unhappy with their job and seek employment elsewhere. High turnover at your supplier's facility can lead to poorer quality goods, as new employees must be trained on your requirements and relevant production processes. The seventh one is working hours. SA8000 requires suppliers to allow at least 1 day of rest following 6 consecutive days of work, and the normal work week should not exceed 48 hours. The standard also sets requirements for overtime. Suppliers must make overtime voluntary, and overtime cannot exceed 12 hours per week. But like the standards, requirements regarding collective bargaining, local or national laws can also grant suppliers more leniency regarding working hours. SA8000 allows exceptions for national laws that allow for more work time and agreements reached by collective bargaining. An auditor will typically check compliance with these requirements by reviewing documentation such as time cards, records, and timesheets, as well as interviewing workers. Excessive working hours and overtime are more common during peak seasons when suppliers struggle to meet tight deadlines for several orders at a time. And while you might be eager to meet deadlines, rushed production can also lead to more product defects and poorer quality goods. Prepare for peak seasons well ahead of schedule to provide your supplier enough time to complete your orders while still complying with overtime requirements. The eighth one is remuneration. An audit of your supplier using the SA8000 standard will also investigate whether your supplier is paying a living wage to workers. Wages must cover the basic needs of staff and allow for discretionary spending. The standard dictates that the supplier cannot withhold or deduct wages for disciplinary reasons unless permitted by national law or a collective bargaining agreement. The supplier must also reimburse workers for overtime at a premium rate defined by national law or collective bargaining agreement. The supplier must also comply with local requirement for mandatory income withholdings such as taxes, social security. For instance, if your supplier in China is not paying social insurance for their employees, they would be in violation of Article 72 of the China's labor law governing benefits and therefore in violation of SA8000. Unfair compensation is a common reason for worker strikes in developing Asian countries. For instance, 50,000 went on strike in January 2019 to call for higher wages. The strikes affected around 4,500 factories manufacturing garments for major brands like Walmart and Tesco. Ensuring your supplier complies with SA8000 and pays their workers a fair wage can help you avoid disruptions to production related on strikes and protests. The ninth one is management system. Factory management must take several additional steps regarding collective actions, preventative measures, policies, and documentation for full SA8000 compliance. Some of the main points outlined in SA8000 are as follows. Senior management must inform staff of their intention to comply with SA8000 with a written policy statement. Your supplier must set up a social performance team (SPT) to oversee implementation of the SA8000 standard as well as identify and assess risks. Your supplier must develop a written grievance procedure that is confidential and non-retaliatory, and your supplier must train staff to implement the SA8000 standard. A social audit checklist should include checking documentation related to each of these requirements throughout the audit to assess the management system. And now move forward and discuss why is it important. The standard encourages organizations, irrespective of their size, industry, and country, to develop, maintain, and apply socially responsible and acceptable practices in their workplace. The program provides a comprehensive framework for organizations to demonstrate their practices and dedication to fair treatment and management practices with respect to their employees and workers. In order to make it relevant and useful, the standards criteria were developed from various industry and corporate codes. SA8000 follows a management system-inspired approach to measured social performance and continual improvement as opposed to the checklist-style auditing of many other international standards. SA8000 is based on ISO standards. Therefore, it is easier to companies to carry out the requirements and effectively implement the standard in the company. Also, it is created with reference to the principles of international human rights norms as described in International Labour Organization conventions as well as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now let us discuss the SA8000 requirements. Similar to many other standards, SA8000 also required fulfillment of general and documentation requirements. The general requirements, since the audits were conducted without the traditional check styles, the standard requires the company to follow the mentioned elements: child labor, forced or compulsory labor, health and safety, freedom of association, right to collective bargaining, disciplinary practices, working hours, remuneration, and the last one is management system. Documentation requirements after determining the external and internal issues relevant to social accountability. The organization must maintain the following documents: policies, procedures, and records, formation of social performance team (SPT), identification and assessment of risk, monitoring, management involvement, compliant management and resolution, corrective and preventative actions, and the last one is management of supplier and contractors. Benefits of SA8000. The standard aims to improve the social environment for workers as well as businesses. From maintaining management systems to enhancing work engagement along with ensuring consistent improvement, the standard fosters better working conditions and well-being of the employees. As a result, a business can receive benefits such as productivity, stakeholders relationships, market access, and more. And the benefits for SA8000 employees and workers: improved relationships with workers, customers and external stakeholders, enhanced management systems that improve workflows throughout the organization leading to achieve improved quality and productivity, better hazard and risk detection, increased supply chain control, higher employee retention, enhanced reputation, appeal to global buyers, and preferential status in government tenders, safe workplace and healthy working conditions, fair compensation, increased awareness of rights and opportunities to organize, better relationships with management, and more input in workplace decision making. SA8000 benefits for organizations: proves the organization's commitment to social accountability, enhances trust by the fair treatment of your employees, improves the management and performance of supply chain and management, increases recognition through compliance with global standards, reduces the risk of negligence, public exposure, and possible litigation, supports corporate vision in building the trust and loyalty of the employees, customers, and stakeholders, demonstrates social accountability, helps in gaining trust while bidding for international contracts or expanding locally, and accommodate new businesses. 4C Consulting can help you obtain social accountability certificate with utmost efficiency, making your organization socially responsible. To know how you can implement SA8000 in your organization, consultant now. We have now come to the conclusion of this session. For any of your queries on what we discussed today, I would request you to please feel free in asking them. Till we meet next, it's best wishes from TNB Academy. Thank you.